Welcome to the Tech Blog Writer Podcast, your guide to future tech trends and innovation in a language you understand. Now, over to your host, Neil Hughes.
Welcome back to the Tech Blog Writer Podcast. Man, it seems weird saying that. I've not said that for over a week now. And today I'm speaking to you live from my cheap and cheerful Airbnb that has been my base here in Split in Croatia for the last 7 nights. And I always say on this podcast that technology works best when it brings people together. And I do get a kick out of sharing different stories every single day about how technology is transforming lives and indeed entire industries. But what happens when the tech podcast guy puts the tech down for a week and goes on a father and son adventure across Croatia? Well, before I tell you, I feel I must read a message that I received from a listener while I've been away, from Simon in Baltimore. And he said, "Neil, I love your podcast and the message that you deliver on every episode. But I'm curious," I think he's using my line there on me, "would I be right in saying that you got the idea for a closure from the Jerry Springer show?" Well, as Roy Walker would say over here in the UK, Simon, it's a good guess, but it's not the right answer. A quick joke for the UK listeners, shoehorned in there seamlessly. But I was actually inspired, believe it or not, by Mork and Mindy, where at the end of every episode, Mork, who was obviously played by Robin Williams, would report back to his boss, Orson, who was on his own planet. And he would talk about what he learned during his week there on planet Earth. And it just got me thinking, isn't it funny how me watching a TV show as a kid would help me shape the structure of my own podcast all these years later? So thanks for your email, Simon. If there's any other questions out there that you're just dying to ask, just please send me a quick email, techblogwriter@outlook.com. And the reason I'm talking to you here now is because I feel compelled to share exactly what I've learned before I leave my Airbnb and head back to the UK. And first of all, I learned how fortunate I am to live in a country that is only a 2.5-hour flight away from somewhere such as Croatia. And also, I booked my entire trip using technology. So I use Kayak Trips. I don't know if any of you use the Kayak app. I've never bought a flight from Kayak, but they've got a very handy feature on there where all emails from your trips, flights, accommodation, everything gets automatically updated into a section called Trips. And basically, you open up the Kayak app, click on Trips, and every single bit of information for the whole of your trip is there in one nice and easy to manage app and itinerary without having to scramble with bits of paper and trying to find emails in the right order for each day. With the Kayak app, I literally just open it up and there's an itinerary for every day. It tells me when to check in, when to check out, where my accommodation is. It's so useful. I often hear about how expensive it is to get your kids away in the school holidays. But my flight to Croatia was literally, I think it was £100. Airbnb was very inexpensive. Yes, it was a 10-15 minute walk out of town, but saved so much money. And that enabled me to invest more money into trips and creating experiences. Then we've got mobile boarding passes, no carrying around bits of paper. In fact, I even had it on my watch at one stage, which I didn't know if that was a step too far. And most interestingly of all, as one of the big changes I've seen in how I travel, is I didn't carry any cash. I didn't change any currency, and I used my card or even mobile payments everywhere I went. And all the trips that I'd booked, they were all managed on my mobile too, so no carrying around those bits of paper, like I said. But this got me thinking. I've got people listening all over the world. What travel apps do you use? I mean, are you more of a TripIt or a Trivago kind of person? Whatever it is, I'd love to know more about the kind of travel tech or travel apps that you use and those must-have tech gadgets that you take with you. I'd love to get everyone to share them on here. We can read them out with everyone so we can all have access to the best tool available when booking our experiences. But saying that, despite the role that tech played in booking and arranging and organising my 7-day trip with my son, while away we'd put the tech down and we spoke with people from Peru, Norway, France, Germany, Italy, Netherlands, Argentina, Brazil, London, Spain, and even India and Canada. And these are the ones that me and my son were just talking about a few moments ago. I was just frantically writing a list of everyone that we've spoken with. And there was a lovely guy called Marcel that sent me his GoPro footage from the zip line that we did. And whilst we were doing those zip lines, I recorded him coming in, so he had a different angle. It just seemed that everyone was naturally helping each other through activities such as kayaking, rafting, etc. And we all busted through any language barrier and worked as a team and communicated with a knowing smile now and again. And guess what? It doesn't matter where we come from or where we live. We all have the same hopes, fears and dreams, and we all just help each other out on our journey. And the big revelation for me was that there are just so many more good than bad people in the world. So naturally, this got me thinking, why do 24-hour rolling news channels try to keep everyone in a constant state of panic and fear of other people? Whoa, I know I went on a little rant there, but when you unplug from the noise and stare out of a window listening to crickets, or just staring out a window on a 4-hour coach journey and let your mind wander and resist temptation to stare down at your smartphone, it's in those moments of dead time that's where the magic happens. So don't get me wrong, I'm no digital saint. And I've tried to organise my thoughts that I'm communicating with you today using my phone because it is a great tool. But never underestimate the importance of putting that phone down and daydreaming. And I must admit that's something that I'm guilty of not doing enough. But when I resisted temptation to not feel those dead moments, I quickly got reacquainted with my old friends, curiosity and imagination. And one example I'd like to share with you was on one of the trips, I find myself in the last available seat, which was at the front of a minibus next to the driver. So yes, I was creating small talk with the driver, talking about football and travel and all kinds of things. But then he picked up another guide. So I then found myself in a situation where I'm sat next to the driver at the front of the minibus, and then there's a guide sat the other side of me. So essentially, I was right in the middle, while the two of them were passionately talking across me in Croatian. But during that conversation, I picked up on a few key words, such as Visual Studio and WordPress. So when they stopped and apologised to me for talking across them in their native tongue, I said, it's cool, but tell me something. You guys are not just guides, are you? You're tech guys as well. Web developers? I asked them. And then we got chatting about how one of them was a developer and a splicer for a company. And this led to a chat about the tech scene in Croatia. And it's amusing that even when I put the tech down, I end up in the middle of a tech conversation. And even though it was being spoken in another language originally, I still picked up on it. So we got talking about the tech scene in Croatia and we exchanged details. And I've invited him to come on this podcast and join us. I mean, how cool would that be that when putting the tech down, it's still bringing people together? So if you're listening to this, my friend, after chatting to a strange Brit on a minibus to a rafting trip, please get in touch. Email me, techblogwriter@outlook.com. And while I was away, I also received an email from a listener that was a little bit bittersweet. It's not all sunshine and rainbows, the kind of messages that I get. It started off very, very positive, and he said, "Hi Neil, I enjoy your podcast. In fact, I'm listening to it at the moment, and I've paused it to dictate this message. And I've decided to take you up on your recent on-air invitation to contact you. However, I find it disingenuous that you have a direct messaging disabled on your Twitter, and it's difficult to find your email address. Cheers, and I'll continue to enjoy your podcast." Now, this was horrifying to me because I get so many DMs on Twitter, and I know that they're working fine. And I won't give you the person's name because all those negative aspects of his email were simply a misunderstanding. And my Twitter is wide open as long as we both follow each other. I receive all DMs, and believe me when I say I get many of them. But anyway, we've since had a nice chat, and I invited him on the podcast to talk about what he's doing, and also hoping to meet him in person as well, especially if I'm able to visit his hometown on a tech conference in the near future. But the main reason I mention this is if any of you listening ever have trouble getting hold of me, please let me know. And I know, ironically, you're going to say, well, if I'm having trouble getting hold of you, how am I going to let you know? But this is, bear with me. All I say is email me, techblogwriter@outlook.com. If you have no joy there, go to my website, techblogwriter.co.uk. Scroll to the bottom of my site, you'll find a contact form, or at the very bottom you'll find links to my social channels such as Twitter, Instagram and LinkedIn. Connect with me on there and send me a DM. And if you do connect with me, don't just connect, please, I implore you, send a message, tell me that you listen to the podcast, start a conversation. And the only emails or DMs that I don't automatically respond to are those that begin with a sales pitch, because I get hundreds of these and it would be impossible to reply to them all. And call me old-fashioned, but you wouldn't begin a conversation with me in the street with, "You will love my product." You just wouldn't do it, would you? So let's get to know each other before launching those copy-paste sales pitches. But when I say please contact me, I genuinely mean it. So as my time in Croatia comes to an end and it's time for me to board my plane, I've enjoyed some Game of Thrones tours in Split and Dubrovnik. I've visited the city of Meereen, Daenerys' throne room, seen where the dragons are kept, and visited King's Landing to take the Wall of Shame, which I will post on Twitter. And I did all of that without bending the knee. So when you hear this, I'll be back from my holiday, mojo recharge. I'll be submitting the final part of my book and reverting this podcast to 7 days a week. But I just wanted to send a quick solo show out there to thank you for being so patient with me as I've been so busy over the last few weeks. And most importantly, of course, just thank you for listening to this podcast. I do realise I throw a lot of content your way and you probably don't get to listen to them all and just tune into the ones that interest you. I completely get that. But please remember, as I always say, this is not my show. It's our show. So whatever you want to see more of or less of, please let me know. My door's always open to each and every one of you. And my last bit of advice is brace yourself, as your podcast host is ready to bombard your feeds once again. So a big thank you for listening. And until next time, don't be a stranger.
Thanks for listening to the Tech Blog Writer Podcast. Until next time, remember, technology is best when it brings people together.